of men. He says in verse 2, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains. He's talking about Ezekiel now, people of great insight, and Daniel and Isaiah, people of great faith, Moses and David and Jonah. Jonah had quite a bit of faith, I think. Not much love. He said, if I have all of this insight and prophetic ability, but have not love, I am nothing. And then he continues, if I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but do not have love, I gain nothing. I could be a martyr for the faith. I could be a person who gives away everything. But if I don't have love, I don't gain anything from them. It's likewise a possibility we hadn't quite expected or considered. And so what is love? He describes what love is in verses 4 and following, where he says, love is patient, it's kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. We could preach a sermon on every phrase, couldn't we? Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. We understand that every human being understands love in a sense, in the form of self-love. What Paul describes here in the kindness of love, a love that does not envy, a love that always seeks the betterment of the other, is something different from the natural inclination of man. Our natural inclination is to love so that we can get, to give so that we can get. And self-love can be very clever. Not long ago, there was an engagement ring that sold. It sold in an auction. There's a country western song, by the way, about buying your wedding ring in a pawn shop. That's pretty sad, isn't it? Think of what happened there. This engagement ring sold for $949,000. It was appraised at $20,000. It was a single diamond set beside a single sapphire, both a little under a carat. And so really about $20,000, but it sold for $949,000 because of the historical significance of the ring. It was the ring Napoleon Bonaparte gave to Josephine. And I didn't know much about their love story. I kind of, Romeo and Juliet, their love story lasted, 3 days, something like that. I thought maybe they had a great love. Well, the honeymoon lasted for 36 hours, evidently. And then Napoleon led the French to invade Italy after 36 hours. And he wrote Josephine all of these wonderful letters. And they had some of the letters in the auction, and the letters were how much he wanted to caress her and love her and see her and kiss her and all these wonderful things. And then he said, please come join me in Italy. And Josephine didn't want to join him in Italy because she liked Paris. And she liked Lieutenant Charles. And when Napoleon discovered Josephine was an unfaithful wife, his letters changed in tone. He wrote, I do not love you. I detest you. You are a gawky, naughty, foolish blank. We understand that love can look a lot like hate, when really it's love about myself and what, even in the church, have you ever been tempted to love or to be friendly or to be kind so that you can get, and when you don't get, then you don't give? Paul said that's not real love. Now we can talk about all the particular meanings of these phrases, but I would suggest to you that we're living in the midst of a catastrophe, and the catastrophe is the boys and girls of this country have not been brought up to know what love is. Where do you learn? Where does a boy and girl, let alone a man and a woman, how do you learn how to love? How do you learn that love is kind? That love is patient and long-suffering, enduring and giving? How do you learn these things? You learn them best in a family. But if a child doesn't learn in the family, then what? If a child doesn't learn how to pray in the family, how to share, how to be nice, how to work, how to delay gratification. All of these things are so important. I remember years ago, Robert Fulghum wrote a pretty good book with a lot of good stories. Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. It was almost right, except it should be everything I need to know I learned in my family. But what if you don't? Let me just share with you a few brief statistics regarding what's happened to our families. By the way, the family is the natural habitat. We can talk about the decline of the church in America. We can talk about the morality of our country. We can talk about all kinds of things. And some people would say the biggest problems we have are climate change or impeachment hearings are beginning today. Impeachment or climate change or political division or all of these things. No, I would suggest to you the biggest catastrophe is the habitat in which we learn to love is being destroyed. James Q. Wilson, a brilliant political scientist, said the natural habitat to grow a healthy human being is the family. And that the greatest predictor of a person's life is their family. Did they have a healthy home growing up? That wasn't, by the way, always considered the case. In 19th century in England, they kept great records. In 19th century in England, wealthy people lived 17 years longer than poor people. And they were 5 inches taller because they ate so much better. That's no longer true. There's no difference in height between the rich and the poor in America or in England. And the difference in how long we live is not that great. No, today, it's unarguable that the thing that determines a person's life most is the family. And so what's happened in our families? 67% of people currently married cohabited before they married. Now, a lot of people just cohabit and never marry. And it's growing very quickly among senior adults. In our newspaper this day, there was a letter to the advice columnist in which a woman who was a grandmother talked about how her husband had left her for another woman whom he did not marry, but he'd been living with her for several years, and now the grandkids are getting married, and they're giving corsages to the live-in, and kind of considering her as a step-grandmother, though they never got married, and this really bothers this woman. As you can well imagine, these are grandparents dealing with that. It's pretty common these days. Sometimes they do it so they don't lose their pension or their Social Security or something like that. 70% roughly live together permanently or before marriage. Let me just give you a couple of others. I can give you a lot of, oh, by the way, I'll just say, you're poor, more domestic abuse, more depression, more anxiety, more of everything you don't want in cohabitation, including more unfaithfulness in those relationships. Now, in 1960, before many of us were around to think and know, one child out of 350 in this country lived with a mother who had never been married. 1 out of 350. Today it's 77 out of 350. It's totally different. 40% of the kids who, by the way, you say, well, this isn't my family, or maybe it has been your family. But these are the people we're trying to reach. 40% of kids by age 12 live with a parent who cohabits or has cohabited with someone else. 40% by age 12. That's pretty much disastrous. And so what happens is, now by the way, these are generalizations. Some of you reacted against some of what you saw in your family. God did a miraculous work in you. And he's doing it in your grandkids too. But these are generalizations, but they're generally true. How does a child learn who to love and how to love and what their family is? I have mom and dad and stepdad and stepmom and ex-stepdad and stepbrothers or sisters that used to be, and the grandparents that kind of were my grandparents when my mom was married or my dad was married to them, but now they're not. You don't know how to define family or define the sense of self. Who am I? You and I say, I'm a person made in the image and likeness of God. I'm a child of the King. I'm adopted into the family of God. But what if you're not? And you don't know that. Couple more. Forbes, last month, Forbes magazine. Suicide among 15 to 24-year-olds has grown 51% in 10 years. The Journal for Higher Education in August, presidents of universities and colleges said in the last 3 years they have seen such a dramatic growth in anxiety, number 1, depression, number 2, and addiction, number 3. And virtually all universities and colleges are putting staff to focus on matters of anxiety, depression, and addiction in their student body. And they said it's much greater today even than 3 or 4 years ago. College freshmen, one more, that entered this year into college, the Marist poll, only 2/3 identify as exclusively heterosexual. 1/3 do not. Doesn't mean they're homosexual or bisexual. What it means is they don't want to be in judgment of those who are. What it means is they don't want to define, they don't want to nail down, really. They don't have a sense of self. And of course, the whole gender identity issue. Facebook's has 71 different genders. Someone told me it's now 101 different genders. I'm just telling you, we live in a world in which families have collapsed. And they don't know how to love. And so our great opportunity is we're the ones who can model that and teach that. And we have to, because people aren't growing up understanding what love is. Now, opportunities have to be seized. Let me tell you one story. This is my concluding story. Tom Wolfe. How many of you had Tom Wolfe as a professor at Golden Gate years ago? And there are some in the room that Tom. Tom was the pastor of the church on Grady Street in Los Angeles, professor at Golden Gate. Then he went to India as a missionary. That's where I met him. But Tom Wolfe was a great pastor. If you don't know his ministry, he had more missionaries with the IMB at one time than any church in the SBC, and they were not a mega church. They were a few hundred, but they had like 20 missionaries on the field, and just a very unusual person. In the 80s, a girl in his church got sick with this mysterious malady. Her name was Stephanie Sakuma. This mysterious thing that was killing everybody that got it, but no one quite understood it at that time. But they did know that anybody who got it, people were totally fearful that they might too contract HIV/AIDS. And I remember if a mosquito bites a person with AIDS and then bites you, could you get AIDS? Rumors about saliva carrying it. There was all kinds of rumors. And so pastors got fired. I know one because his wife contracted AIDS through a blood transfusion and gave it to 2 of their kids through breastfeeding, and they all died. And the church released the pastor. They were so fearful, they didn't know what was going on. So Stephanie's parents came to Tom Wolfe and thought that he would, she's a 9-year-old girl, hemophiliac, is how she got it. And they thought he would say, you can't attend because our kids will be frightened and our parents won't like that. This is what Tom told them, backed up by the elders of the church. He said, the church is a family. As a family, we live together. As a family, we may die together. But whatever we do it together. Stephanie did die. But that act of love and compassion did something for that church that I don't know they've ever grown out of. They became famous in their community for love and care. And that church became what is now Mosaic. And Stephanie's mom was on staff in that church for years and years and years. Erwin McManus, the current pastor, says not so much for her giftedness, but because she's a living reminder of the kind of love we always want to be famous for. You'll have opportunities in the life of one person or one family, and how you love that one person, that one, it could make you famous in the community, in the neighborhood. This is a church that loves in a specific, giving, sacrificial, maybe even dangerous manner. They love. So my pleading with you and myself would be, don't pass up. Always seek. Search out, seek, and take hold of opportunities to love people because they're not growing up learning how to do it. They just don't know. They just don't know. Well, God bless you, Northwest Baptist. It's been a good year. Looking forward to a great year yet to come. And Brother Al Rodriguez is going to come and lead us in our concluding prayer. And following Brother Al's prayer, you are dismissed.